There's just something special about those classic 80s hard rock and heavy metal guitar tones from bands like Scorpions, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Dokken, Queensryche, Cinderella, the list goes on. And I think I finally found an amp sim that gets me closer to that style and those types of guitar tones. I'm going to share that with you guys. I'm going to share my settings for the tones you heard in the beginning here. And be sure to hang around for our guitar chat at the end. There's actually a question I have for you and I want to hear your opinion on it. All right, so what I'm using here is from an amp sim that I've been using for a long time. It's Positive Grid's Bias FX2. By the way, I'm not sponsored by them, not at the time of this video anyway. You never know when that could change, because if they ever wanted to work with me, I would be jumping on board right away, because I've been using their product for a long time now. But this is the JM45 Overdriven amp, and it's actually based on, I think, Marshall's first amp that went into production, the JTM45. And if I'm not correct on that, please let me know in the comments. But that's what it's based on. Now again, we're going to talk about amp sims simulating a particular amp. We're going to talk about that in the guitar chat, so do hang around for that at the end of the video. Before we get into each individual tone that you heard in the beginning of the video, because I want to share that with you, this is my signal chain here in Positive Grid's Bias FX2, the plugin here. So I've got a noise gate in front of the amp, then I've got my little green box, a little screamer sim there, then the amp, then we've got the cab. By the way, I'm using the Celestian, this is Celestian greenback that they have. Now, real quick, this is something that I believe set Positive Grid apart from really all the other amp simulators out there. There's a lot of good amp sims out there, and I think most of them are really good these days. But this one thing here, their Celestian sims, to me, to my ears, they sound a lot better than the others I've played through. And in the effects loop, we've got a little reverb and delay. So let's break down these tones real quick. You're going to hear the individual tracks. I've got two rock heavy metal rhythm tones. I've got like kind of that clean bluesy style tone, same amp here, and I've got a lead guitar tone as well. So I'm going to share all of that with you. Let's start with the first hard rock heavy metal rhythm that you heard. So that was just the amp. I had the gain cranked all the way up there. Now my EQ settings, guys, they're really nothing special. I don't do anything crazy with the EQ, just a little shift here and there. I think I've got the bass almost up the middle, a slight mid boost, a slight treble boost, and so forth. So nothing real special. And those EQ settings, they actually remain the same throughout everything else that we're gonna go through here. So that stays the same. But the gain here, I've got it cranked up all the way to 11. Now, this is not a high gain amp, and I didn't use the booster on this, the OD. I didn't use any OD overdrive on this. That's coming up next, but I just kind of wanted to share that with you. This is just kind of the raw amp. I did use some reverb and delay on it. I think for that era and that guitar tone and that style, I like to have a little reverb and delay even for the rhythms. It just kind of brings it out, and I don't know, it makes it 80s, right? It makes it 80s metal. Now, next tone up, we are going to make two simple changes. So listen to this and we'll chat about it. Now the two things I did here was I clicked the overdrive on. Now I have the actual distortion or the overdrive all the way down on this pedal, as you can see on the screen here, and you can see the rest of the settings. Again, nothing special. This just kind of gives it that over the top boost there and a little bit more saturation, really complementing the amp in my opinion. Now the other change that I made is I actually backed the gain off of the amp a little bit here. I think it's in between like 7.5, 8, something like that. But that to me, I tried it with the gain all the way up in the boost, and it's like, okay, well that sounds good. If I was going for something, I guess a little bit heavier, that probably would have worked out. But the sweet spot to me with this tone here for rhythms was just backing that gain off a little bit. It's still up there, but just backing it off a little and then turning on that OD pedal. Now this next tone, completely different. So of course the overdrive is off on this setting here, and I've got the gain back down even further. Now the thing about this amp, or I should say amp sim, because I don't know if the actual amp, the JTM45, would react the same. I don't know that, never played through one. I don't worry about that so much. What I'm concerned with is, do I like what I'm hearing from what I'm using? And again, we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into that in the guitar chat, so do hang around for that. But to me, this amp sim, if you back the gain off too much, yeah, you get a clean tone, but it kind of just loses its punch, okay? Which that might seem like the natural thing. So I do have the gain is well beyond 5, probably between 5 and 6 there. But as you can hear, still kind of that clean with a little bit of grit, and it's just got a nice full sound. Now, of course, on the pickup here, and I'll talk about the guitar as well that I'm using after this, the pickup, I'm using a mix between my single coil and my humbucker there, just to get the little bit beefier, like clean tone there, if that makes sense. So this is perfect for those breakdowns, and you would hear this in some of the songs in the hard rock and heavy metal from the 80s. You would hear them throw in a little clean part, or kind of a clean bluesy part like that. Lastly, I'm going to share the lead tone that you heard at the end of the track, and we're going to play the track again at the end of the video. Got a lot of good stuff coming up, so hang around. But here's the lead track. Now this is very similar to the second tone that we went over with the overdrive on, and of course I had the gain backed off for the rhythm. What I did here was I just cranked the gain all the way up. I wanted some more saturation. I also gave this a little bit more bottom end and a little bit more mids. For my lead tracks, I like to kind of boost almost everything. I typically don't boost the presence or treble, but I will give it a little bit more bottom end because we're playing mostly single notes there. So that kind of helps it rise above everything else and just kind of sit nicely in there so that you can hear it. So I thought that was a really nice lead guitar tone. It is time for our guitar chat, guys, and I love this moment because I enjoy reading through your comments. I actually learned a lot from you guys, and I encourage you, hey, read through the other comments too. There's just so much cool information. I always tell people I have got the absolute best and greatest YouTube audience out there. I love you guys so much, and I really appreciate you. Before we get into our guitar chat though, make sure if you don't have my free practice guide, Metal Riffs and Licks, make sure you grab a copy of that. There's a link in the description of this video. If you've already got that but you don't have my metal guitar courses, I've got a couple links to those courses in the description as well. Now this amp sim, the JM45 Overdriven from Bias FX2, does it sound like the Marshall JTM45? I don't know, to be honest guys, I don't care. The question that I always ask myself when I'm plugging into the studio here is, do I like what I hear coming out of that amp sim? Okay, I either like it or I don't. I don't care if the Mesa sim sounds like the real deal or doesn't. And half the time, most of us don't know what the real thing even sounds like. I don't own a Marshall JTM45. I've never played through one, so I can't tell you what that sounds like, okay? And when we compare it to the record, like if we know this guitar player in this band uses that amp and we're trying to mimic their tone from this amp sim, well, guess what? You're not hearing the guitar tone that was actually recorded. You're not hearing that raw guitar tone in the record. you're hearing the post-production version of that. I had a really good conversation with someone who mixes records for a living. His name is Nick Z. You're gonna become familiar with him really soon, because he's building a course for Metal Mastermind. By the way, that's where I host all of my guitar courses. I am co-owner of that platform along with Ken Candela, which most of you are familiar with. But that's coming down the pipeline. But we were talking, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about amp sims and tube amps, and how people say, well, it doesn't sound like the real thing. And you know, he's done all these blind tests, and really at the end of the day, in today's modern era of amp simulation, you really can't tell. And to be honest, guys, the listener, the people that are listening to your music, they probably don't care. They just care that they like the song, right? Focus more on the song. Not saying you shouldn't focus on your guitar tone, you need to like it, but don't allow yourself to become so caught up in real amp versus amp sim. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because all of that's going to go through the post-production process and the mixing, and everything that's added to that or taken away from it. It's gonna go through a lot of changes before that end product is released. So I hope that that makes sense. And I say all that, guys, to alleviate the pain that we cause ourselves sometimes. Well, it doesn't sound like the real thing. The question we should be asking is, does it sound good? Can I quickly dial in a tone that I like for the purpose, right? Because today's purpose, this video, well, this is about that classic 80s hard rock and heavy metal guitar tone. And I feel like this amp, well, it's my go-to now. By the way, I've got Gunner, he's working on a lesson for you using this amp, and it's an 80s metal lesson. So that's gonna be coming up in the next few days. Once it's out there, I'll put it up here for you guys. But the question we should ask ourselves always is, do we like the sound, and is it catering to our purpose, that specific purpose for that moment, for that song or album? Now, real quick, for those of you who do not know what guitar I was using, you saw this green beauty here. So this is the Schroeder Marksman 87 guitar. This was actually made for me by Mike Schroeder himself. He is a German guitar maker, and he was kind enough, he's been watching my channel for a long time, he just reached out to me and was kind enough to send me this thing. I've been playing this a lot more lately, so it's been a really cool experience. I do have a video on that, and this is not sponsored either, guys. He didn't expect me to do anything. I just like to showcase the guitar because I'm very appreciative of it, and it's just a cool guitar. Green is my wife and I's birthstone, by the way. I do have a video on this guitar, though. I talk about the specs and all that good stuff, let you hear a variety of tones. I'll put that up there if you guys want to check that out. But guys, I just want to say thank you so much for watching my videos, for supporting my YouTube channel, my music, my guitar courses. Again, take some time to read the description of this video. I've got a lot of good stuff in there for you, my courses, my music, all that good stuff. And I appreciate the support, guys, I really do. And again, drop any questions you have in the comments. I spend literally every single morning a good 20-30 minutes reading through your comments and responding and that sort of thing. So that's how I start my day when I get home from the gym. Protein shake, then I'm answering you guys on YouTube. Sometimes I even sit in the gym parking lot and go through comments on my phone. I gotta stop doing that because I need to get in there, get the workout done, and get that over with. But anyway, I just say that to say I'm very appreciative of your comments, guys. So thank you once again. By the way, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'll see you again soon. Until then, as always, keep it metal.